Hi, I'm David and welcome to another Scalar 2 workflow video. In this video what we're going to do is effectively make the track that we're currently listening to from scratch using only the basic functions of Scalar. Many of the videos that we make are good for Scalar 2 users or people familiar with Scalar, but we get quite a few people who say, okay, you're talking as if we assume we know everything. So the purpose of this video here is to start absolutely from scratch and assume you've just purchased a copy of Scalar and show you exactly how easy it is and in how short a period of time you can come up with a nice harmonic and melodic musical idea, such as something that we're listening to now. So in this video today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by making a melody and showing you how Scalar can detect your melody and provide some harmonic content, i.e. chords and performances around that melody. As a brief introduction, firstly, this may be stating the obvious, but if you're new to Scalar, it's fair to say that there are three sections that really are of interest to us initially, and that is the browser section, which is here up the top. And here you can go to scales and choose a scale to start working with. You can go to any one of the genre-based presets, so we could say future bass, we could go future bass 5, and it'll give you a bunch of chords that is in the style of future bass. It'll also, Scale is always live, so it'll always tell you, well, that's actually in the B flat minor scale. It'll tell you what chords are in that scale, what chords are outside that scale. And it will always populate section B, which is the scale explorer, with that scale. There's also a bunch of artist presets as well, so we could go MG the Future, go Playgrounds, and there's a chord set from him, and there's some really great chords in there. And again, doing the same thing in this scale, it's saying, okay, well that is G minor, here's his chords, here's the actual diatonics, so they're the chords belonging to G minor. And then, of course, from there you can drag and drop any combination of chords straight into section C, which is what we call the builder. We can then bind any section, and that will relate to C2 to C3 on your keyboard. And when you were to hit C2 on your keyboard, it will trigger the first note in whatever first chord in whatever section. So if we were down here in section C, you would say trigger 1. You can see there's only 3 keys bound because you've only got 3 chords selected, and that would trigger those chords. Just before I get going with my melody, clicking on the S brings up the very helpful manual, and that is a really nicely detailed, easy to read manual which really describes all the sections and lots of things you can do. From there, there is also, clicking on the S will also take you to our web community forum, which there are thousands of helpful users out there that can help you with any questions you have. And of course our video tutorials, which cover a wide range of things from how to set up Scalar to control a third-party instrument in Bitwig to many other things. There's also the plugin boutique page. Joshua Caspar and several other producers there do a great job creating lots more. So there's a huge bunch of resources online to help you. Okay, let's get on with creating our melody. Yeah, I'm going to create a empty MIDI region here. I'm going to make it 2 bars long, and I'll just start kind of painting some notes around, if you like. Let's say I go now, you could, of course, be just writing a, taking a MIDI file or using a melody from another instrument. But in this case, I'm just going to try and keep this fairly simple. Okay, so I've written a melody. Yep, sounds good to me. What I'll do is I'll quickly grab all those notes in Logic and just put them an octave up. Okay, great. Now I'm going to choose a different instrument. I might go the retro bass. Okay, so I've just created my melody. I like the sound of it. Let's just assume I'm starting with my melody. I like the sound of it. I have no idea where to go musically. I'm not very good at music theory. What do I do? So this is where scalar comes in handy. I'm going to pull scalar back up, and the first tab that it always launches on is detect mode. And now it's already on detect mode. You can see it highlighted. It's saying the source is MIDI. Now we could have opened an audio file and detected an audio file to find out the key and scale of that audio file. We could set it to audio mode here and just drag an audio file on, or just put some audio on the channel. But in this instance, I've got MIDI on that channel. It's exactly where I need to go. I'm just going to hit record, and I'm going to ask it to basically analyze those notes. Okay, great. I'm going to stop that. It's correctly analysed the notes. Of course it can analyse chords too, but in this instance we're starting with a melody. And it's come up and it said, well, the most likely is the B flat major scale, C minor scale, E flat major scale, F minor scale. And it could, because it's only 5 notes, it could be any of those. If I check the C minor scale, cool. So I'm going to select that and say, great, C minor scale. Now I'm going to turn the loop back on and play my melody. That's coming straight from scalar, nothing there, just my melodies being played. What can I do? Well, these are the chords of the C minor scale. So I could kind of play along and see what chords fit with that melody. And if I bind this area, I can actually play them. Now, straight away I'm hearing that that sounds a little bit low, so I can move the octave of those chords up. Yeah, that sounds better. So what I'm actually doing here is I'm binding and I'm triggering those chords whilst my melody is playing in the background here in Logic. Okay, so I could just be doing any combination. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up another scalar, and rather than try and put it all into the one scalar, we don't want to confuse it by playing melodies and chords, and I also want the flexibility of having each different part on each different channel. So I've chosen my C minor scale. I can see that some chords work well there. I'm going to just open up a new scalar here, and I'm going to change, just so I can distinguish the sound a little bit, I'm going to change it, and I'm going to go to, say, a chorus bass. It's a bass sound, but you can actually also use it for chords. So scales, I'm going to go to scales. I know I'm in C minor, so I'm going to hit the C minor scale. That's the right one. I'm going to bind this area here, and because I liked it an octave up, not down there, but up here. Now I've bound this area, so that's the chords. So I can just effectively play those chords over my melody and work out what I like. Okay, cool. So it's a really good way to just go, this is now moving, rather than starting with just a melody and going, okay, great, now I'm going to find a sample CD, I'm going to go to a third-party instrument. We can do all of that later, but what I like scalar to do is really help me come up with the core harmonic content. And then when I'm starting to get a little traditional and a little musical, and I want to be kind of a little bit cooler, I can then go to those other instruments. But first, I want to create the harmonic content. So I'm going to come up with some chords. I'm going to record some chords. I'm kind of going to go the... yeah, kind of going to go that vibe. Now, to give me enough room, what I'm going to do is I'm going to repeat this region, and I'm going to cycle around the lot because I'm going to record some chords that go for 8 bars, if you like, in scalar. So here we go. Okay, cool. So there's my chords. You can see the there that I've recorded. Now, just to make it straightforward in Logic, I'm going to ask it just to quantize those chords so they play right on the step. And you can see them triggering. See them triggering the chords that I triggered there. Now, there's probably a nice time, to show you MIDI capture. I could MIDI capture those chords and go. And if I was to stop and drag, that's captured the actual chords that I've played. So you can see here on this channel, the actual chords that I've played were triggered there. Okay, but for now, I'm just going to keep triggering the bound area. And I want to talk about some of these. I'll just clear that here. I want to talk about some of these very important tabs in the scale in section B. Now, I'm just triggering the standard triads. They are, you know, again, assuming that our music theory is not so great, I know that a C minor scale is made up of C, the minor third, and the perfect fifth. So those 3 chords. So that would be called a C minor. C minor. So that's what I'm triggering. I'm just triggering the standard triads. Triads meaning 3. But if I want to make those chords a little bit interesting, I can ask Scalar to help me. So I could say, okay, I'll just solo that section so we can only hear the chords. I could say, could you play the 7ths? Add the 7ths. So that would be adding the, in this case, the B flat to that to add the 7th degree of the minor scale. Here we go. Yeah, so already kind of richer. Yep, so I could go that vibe. Yep, I could go further and add the 9th. I'm going to go back to the simple triads and look at another way to voice those chords, okay? So I might come over here to the voicings, and I think this is a really underused function or feature of Scalar. And what that does is that says, okay, let's look at some artists' interpretations of those voicings. So you can be in C minor. I'm still going to give you chords that are appropriate, but I'm going to play them differently. So if I hit, say, trigger this C minor chord here, you can hear, you can see the voicings are different. That is, there are different ways to voice a triad. So playing my chords, you can hear how I get a harmonically richer chord progression. And I could go through and try a few different voicings. Yeah, it all sounds pretty cool. I could even go minor 7ths and 9ths, 7ths inverted. Let's try 7ths and 9ths. Yeah, so I'm going to stick with first voicings, but I think that's a really good way to come up, Scalar to come up with chords that you like, and then go, okay, how can I still use those chords but use more richly voiced versions? So adding notes that still go with those chords, and Scalar can help you do that. So I'm going to go voicing 1, that's great. So now I've got my chords. I'm going to open a new scaler and start adding some more stuff. So what I'm going to do here, to make this easier, I'm just going to duplicate the channel. So in Logic, I can just Command D, I can duplicate it. And now I've got exactly the same scaler on a different channel, but in this instance, I'm going to kind of record a pad sound, if you like. So I'm going to go Scales, C minor. I've got voicing 1. I could, there's my pad there. I could just, following the chords, I could just play along. And here I go up to the minor 3rd. So I could follow exactly the chords that I wrote before, and here I'll go to the perfect 4th and 5th. Yeah, okay, cool. So they were the chords I was playing, so I'll record those. Okay, great. And again, it's just triggering those notes. If I look back within Logic, there's the notes. Maybe an opportunity to try different voicings. I'm going to go, you can see what the triads are doing there. They are playing, voicing 1 is playing those notes there, but I'm going to go to something different. Let's say octaves and thirds. So octaves and thirds, meaning it's not going to play the fifths. And you can see that it's actually just playing, it's just playing just the note of C and that third, that's all. Now playing along with my tune. Okay, cool. So I want to start adding a little bit more harmonic content and start building my tune a little bit more. So I'll duplicate that scaler again. There you go. It's created another scaler. I'll pull that up, okay, and I'll just copy the notes from the previous scaler onto this new scaler here. So effectively now it's going to be doing exactly the same thing. But I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to turn on performances because I just want to start, you know, making my tune a little bit more harmonically rich, or just adding parts to it, if you like. So I'm going to pull up the saw bass sound here. And I'm going to move it up an octave, okay? And I'm going to go, we could leave it on octaves and thirds, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on performances. Now you can see in the other videos that we make, they cover performance as well, but basically all this is doing now is effectively giving us a chance to play those chords as a pianist might play it, another composer might play it, or phrases, rhythms, basses and melodies. I'm going to go rhythm, so it's just going to play me those chords, but it's going to break it up into a rhythm. Yep, cool. I'm going to go non, okay? That sounds like a fairly good rhythm to me. To make it a little bit more interesting, I'm just going to add some of my delay. And again, voicing, I might go for anything. I could go for inverted thirds, suspended, 4th, 7ths. I'm going to try voicing 7. Okay, let's see how that sounds. Cool, so it's kind of given me a bit of a different rhythm, which is exactly what I wanted. It's all going with my original melody, the chords that I found, the pad sound, and this new, yep, cool. So I'm going to add another scaler to another channel down here. I'm going to ask Scaler to help me with a bass line. So I'll go scales, I'll go C minor. I'm going to choose a bass sound. I'm going to go tight bass. Cool. Again, we were in C minor. And let's stick with that voicing 7 that we used before. So these are the actual chords. Okay, I'm going to pull down those notes. So they are exactly the same trigger notes that we were using before. And I'm going to bind this area. So this at this stage is just effectively playing those chords. But what I want Scalar to do on this occasion is give me a bass line. So I can go back up to performances and I can go into bass mode. I could have gone melody mode to find a melody, but I'm going to go bass mode to find a bass sound. Now there's a whole category of bass lines here. I'm going to go, I'll choose house 4. Cool, that sounds cool. It's just following my chords. You can see it's just basically interpreting each one of those chords in a bass line. I could have actually said to it, stick it into scale mode. So don't move with the chords, just stick with the scale. So now it'll just only play the chord, the bass line locked to C minor, which is really cool. You can hear that there. Yeah, but what Scalar can do for me is it can move those bass notes according to the chords that I'm playing. So a really good way to come up with any bass line based on the chords, using the voicing, the different voicing. So again, it's not, a lot of people kind of mention with Scalar, well, it can make entire tunes for you, but you really have to be able to use your ear and look for the variations. And it's just music theory. It's just kind of taking the a lot of the theory out for you, or giving you shortcuts in just exactly the same way a musician would work. Okay, rather than just play these triads or use these voices, and Scalar is just giving you those options. So again, now we've got our bass line. Cool, so just by following my melody and asking Scalar to detect it and tell me a few things, it's given me a pretty good basis for a tune. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate that now. To make that slightly more interesting, what I'll do is I'll say, okay, for a different section here, get rid of the melody. Don't worry about that main melody. Maybe let's have an ARP. Okay, so to add some variety to this second section, I might pull up another scalar. And I might say, okay, back into scales. Okay, for my ARP, I'm going to go into a simple FM sound here. Yep, cool. I'm going to, I've moved the chords down from this channel here, so I've still got those same chords. I'm going to go to performances, and I'm going to turn on arpeggio. Now, of course, I need to bind that area, so those trigger notes that I've got here are then triggering the actual chords. Yep. Yep, cool. Make this slightly interesting. What I might do is I might say, I might go to settings, and there's always more parameters available to tweak within settings, and I might go into the arpeggio, and I might say, for that ARP, do a 2-octave range. Yep, okay, cool. Let's see how that sounds. I might double the speed, so instead of the 8th note arpeggio, I might go 16th note, not 16th dotted or 16th triplet, which would also be cool. I'm just going to make it simple, 16th. Yep, okay, let's have a listen. Okay, cool. So that's given me a little bit of variety. So here I've got a machine track in which I program some beats. So I'm just going to add that. Okay, Okay, here's the up section. So basically what I'm doing there is I'm swapping from the melody, and that drops out, and then the up comes in. Yeah, cool. Okay, great. So I've got my tune, C minor, I've found my melody, I've added some chords, I've asked Scalar to add some straight chords, some pads, a rhythm, a bass line, and an up. So I could keep going with Scalar, but you know, to keep things slightly interesting, given that I've got everything musically correct and working nicely, I could open up something like arcade. Let me open a fresh arcade here, and just to show you how much fun it is now that we've got everything correct, to go into something like arcade and say, okay, tell arcade, well, we're in C minor as an example. Now we could be just as easily using loop cloud, which I love from Loop Masters and finding stuff here, and I could go, yep, sure, give me ambivalence. And arcade's playing everything in C minor. Now that obviously means that I could just play along. Here we go. And anything I play in arcade is going to work. So there's a melody from arcade, will it work? Yeah, great, it does work. Okay, so here I'm going to pull up another arcade, and I'm going to look for some vocals here, and I'm going to pull up, say, the excellent Hooked series, and I'm going to go for, again, I need to tell arcade I'm in C minor. So I guess the point of this is, what I'm suggesting is any software or site or loop cloud or anywhere you go and you tell it, well, I'm in C minor, is now going to work because Scalar's helped you to be musically correct. Okay, so here I'm going to go and pull up Together. Wait for me, wait for me. Okay, so that's going to work. Okay, so I'm going to record that in. Okay, cool. So if I go and clean that up now in Logic and just basically ask it to play on the actual beat and avoid my shonky playing, and just shorten this note here to the bar where I wanted it. Okay, cool. So effectively now I've got a basis for my tune. I started off with the original melody, I added the chords, I added a pad, I added a rhythm, I added a bass line, all based on the initial chords that I did, asking Scalar to help me with its voicings. I added an up for the second section. I added just some drums. I programmed the machine, and I went to something like arcade just to give it the finishing touch, and now I added the vocals. So I've got my complete tune. So just to go from the start, melody in Scalar, we detected it, we programmed it, we detected it. Here it is. That's our melody. Then we added these chords. Then we came in and added this pad. We asked for the octaves and thirds voicing just to make the pad slightly different. Then we came in and chose voicing 7, same chords again, still triggering the same way. This time we went to rhythms. I found a rhythm that sounded nice. And then again, did another scalar, voicing 7, and just asked for a bass line. Went house bass 4 based on the chords, and voicing 7 to make it slightly different. And then we moved over to the second section, which is just an ARP, and we just basically asked the ARP to go up 2 octaves instead of the normal 1, 16th, and just triggering the chords. No effects, nothing else, and that's our whole tune. I hope you've enjoyed the tutorial. Thanks for watching, and enjoy Scalar 2.